Samstapakaya च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय Ramakrishnaय ते नमः. Namaskars to one and all. Today's session is about spiritual leadership. I would like to discuss spiritual leadership in the context of the four principles called the four Purusharthas. I would like to place before you 5 sections in my talk. The sections which could include areas where goals in our life, definitions, leadership questions which we encounter in our life, ancient text which substantiate our understanding, and finally the equations which deal with our work and life. These are the 5 areas I would like to place before you in the course of my talk. Beginning with goals in our life. Let us consider how we see our goals and the principles underlying them. Without goal, it's like a rudderless ship. We as human beings, we require goals. So how do we understand these goals? By understanding these goals, how do we aspire to be a leader? Leader is not a concept which is away from us. We all are leaders in our own right. How can we understand leadership at a level of spirituality is the theme of today's talk. What is a goal? Goal is an objective, a target which one intends to reach, where it requires an amount of will, an X amount of will, a purpose, determination, tenacity, and we work towards it with that required effort and determination to reach it. Are goals unique, or are goals having a same thread underlying a lot of different people? The ambitions and goals of each person seems to be unique, owing to different situations, different times. It seems to be unique, but if one asks a question, why do you want that? I think let's begin there. Why do we want that? And introspects, takes the question into ourselves. It will inevitably lead to 3 principles of our life. What are those 3 principles of our life? Security, happiness, and peace. So we're talking about artha, kama, and dharma. You'll be surprised, why am I equating peace with dharma? In the course of this talk, I would like to point some insights which relate to that peace as dharma too. The Ashrama runs an educational institution too. Me being a part of that institution, daily come across numerous students, children everywhere are curious to know more about the world. The curiousness, the questioning nature of their, the way they need to understand the world is something which we need to question why at a philosophical level. Understanding the why, understanding it as that potential to throw light into our inquiry to life. We all are looking for a deeper meaning through work, through meditation, through service, exploring and finding various experiences to make our life more meaningful and fulfilling. So how do we propose to do that? By questioning. So with that, we move on to the next segment called the definitions in our life. Definitions which would like to deal with how artha works. What is karma? What is dharma? And finally, what is moksha? The will to survive. We are survivors. The will to survive, this innate sense of security is called artha. Security at various levels. We need our finances in order. We need our relationships in order. We need our insurances in order. That enables us to be more secure. So I think this begins, a life begins with this aspect of security. We start with security. Artha. Succeeding this artha is our desire to be happy, to be comfortable, to explore the world in a more fulfilling way. This comfort, sense of comfort, well-being is karma. The desire to be more comfortable. Artha, karma. So where does dharma fit in? Dharma, you can think of dharma as some kind of regulatory guidelines. Those guidelines, that regulations, in our indulgence in artha and kama, to guide those indulgences and pursuits is dharma. Why do we need guidelines? Why do we need frameworks? To make our pursuit of artha and kama sustainable. We do not want to pursue certain things for a period of time and after a year it is lost. We would like to make it more fulfilling, more rewarding. So if you want a thing to be more rewarding and fulfilling, we need a code of conduct. That code is dharma. That is where dharma is in our lives. Want that peace of mind, shanti. Shanti bekam ellargu. But let us understand, peace is not a gift. Peace is something which we earn. We earn peace to know how to protect that aspect of peace. So, when you ask me how dharma is connected with peace, that regulatory conducts help us to sustain peace. So, peace is a synonym of dharma. And it is integral in our spiritual and material growth. Let us say our conduct in our life is unbecoming. We swerve from a path of righteousness. When we swerve from a path, it could be a gradual or an instantaneous downhill. At a personal level or at a public level, our sense of peace is lost. Sanity is lost. That is why dharma is important and it is related to peace. Now we want peace. So if we want peace, we need to be more responsible. All of us. We need to be more responsible, and to make peace a part of our life, we need to go and follow the code of conduct. In today's society, a lot of chaos around. We strive, difficult to find that sense of orderliness in our dealings outside. Let us not forget, through chaos comes order. If you only know how to look. Just like an adage which says, try to find the silver lining in the cloud, dark cloud as a silver lining. Similarly, within this chaos, there is that sense of order which we need to strive for. How do we get that order? How do we do that? By bringing those aspects of Dharma, those wonderful habits into our life. Those habits regulates our life and guides us to handle, make artha and kama more sustainable. This is another aspect which I would like to place before you. Why we need to follow those tenets of Dharma? What are those tenets of Dharma? We could talk about Satya, truthfulness. Talk about Ahimsa. We could talk about Brahmacharya, continence, self-control. We talk about Asteya, talk about Aparigraha. See, these are all aspects of life. So sometimes you may see these are very archaic. It is not relevant in today's society. But no, it is eternal principles which we need to discover to make our life more fulfilling. It's like the gravity. Just by denying that you do not have gravity, by denying it, you don't recognize gravity, doesn't mean gravity goes away. If we want to make the best use of life, want to make better use of our life, we need to follow those tenets and move forward. Why Dharma is important? In our pursuit of artha and kama, as I already pointed out, we wanted to make it more sustainable. We do not want to jeopardize our effort to make it more sustainable. Along with that, it is also important that we should not deny another person's reasonable chance towards artha and kama. We live in a society. Living in a society, we have responsibility towards us and to others. If we do not create an environment around us, eventually we ourselves will not be able to live in that environment. So that is what is important here. I leave you at that. Definitions which are a part of our life, and I'll try to move on to that aspect of leadership questions which we need to understand. Leadership questions. As I said, we all are leaders in our own right. But we like to explore leadership at a much more fundamental level. Leadership is not only for students. Leadership is not only for corporates. As a normal human being, how can we tap into that tool of leadership? Let us ask ourselves a question now. When and where do we want to be secure, happy, or peaceful? When and where do we want to be secure, happy, and peaceful? The question is, it's not only at that given time I want to be safe. It's not only at that given point of time I want to be happy. I would like to be happy always and every given point of time. So we're talking about everywhere and always. What an ideal. So, we want to be secure, happy, peaceful, always, everywhere, under all conditions. That is our requirement. That is our requirement. Meaning, we desire these life principles to be free from all limitations of space, time, and causation. That is our requirement. It's a very tall order. Free from space, time, and causation. That is what we want. Let us keep this for a moment, back burner. Let's keep this thought for a moment. I'll be able to relate this particular aspect of unconditioned, unalloyed happiness. How do we make it our very own? It is possible, but how to do it? We'll discuss this a little later. Leadership. At a very conventional sense, at a very normal sense, evaluate these goals at three levels. One, processing. How do we process goals? How do we understand goals through our performance? And how do we understand goals by the outcome? How do we process goals? Processing leadership. How do we do that? We talk about specific actions or processes for performing. For example, after this satsang, after the prayer, you'd like to, make a habit of spending a couple of hours to do some study, do some research or meditation. So you have a process. After this, I have a particular specific action which I want to do. So if you're able to successfully do it, you are bringing that leadership element into your life. That is another aspect of leadership. Secondly, performance. We all have our personal standards, ideals. We all have our particular ideals. Example, I require a specific amount of health consciousness. I need my health, my fitness to be at a particular level. So I'm inspired by an ideal and I would like to follow that. So my performance should be at a particular level, particular standard. So this is another leadership here. Finally, we talk about outcome. My leadership is dependent on the outcome. How? At the end of this particular term, I need to achieve so and so. Let us say I want to win an Olympic medal at the end of this tenure. So we're talking about performance, process, outcomes. So our leadership revolves around these aspects. Whether we follow it consciously or subconsciously. So a leadership had some real value to our life. Talking about a value addition to our life, where to our personal life, to our institution, with spiritual leadership here. What is so different from a leader and a spiritual leader? What is that spiritual leadership here? In addition to being an effective, efficient leader, we are talking about a holistic one. Holistic one where we are able to understand the extrinsic and the intrinsic aspects of our life. That is where the realm of spirit begins. Going forward, I will place before you some ideas from the Upanishads. Mundaka Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, some aspects where Upanishads by themselves are a treasure trove of knowledge and insight, and it is filled with characters, different personalities, wonderful personalities. Through their dialogues and conversations, they try to share their ideas to the rest of our world. In Upanishad, in the Mundaka Upanishad, we come across a personality by name Shaunaka. He's a great householder, Grihastha, great one. So he goes and approaches a rishi, Angirasa, who happens to be the disciple of Bharadvaja Muni. He approaches him and puts a question before him. He says, "What is that, O Bhagavan? What is that? Which being known, all this becomes known." Shaunako havai mahashalo angirasam videvadupasannaha papracha kasminnu bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavati iti. That is the verse. The point to ponder here is not the question only. We are talking about Shaunaka as an accomplished householder. Let us not forget that point. He's not a novice, he's not a student. He's not trying to understand the ropes of the world. He's an accomplished householder. So you're talking about that householder who's done so much achievements. He's proven himself to be a leader. He's proven himself to be a leader, and he's asking the question, what should I do that to know that everything? What is that which being known, everything else is known? What is that? What is that? So there's an inquiry going on. This is something which we need to ponder over here. What is that? Infinite peace, infinite bliss is not attainable through limited actions. Material world is fraught with limitations and can never hope to fulfill the innate nature of man, which is Sat Chit Ananda. So if we want to savor that highest into our life, we need to change, we need to mod feredo. Sri Ramakrishna says that we need to change the perspective of approach of our life. This is the beginning of spiritual leadership. This is the beginning. That channelizing our energies, that journey of going inward. Coming on to the next section where we talk about ancient texts in our life. Ancient texts like the Upanishads, wonderful scriptures which our culture has produced, talks about a lot of general information which helps a lot of people. Code of conduct. It also provides a lot of deep insights. To be successful at a level of the world and at the personal level and at the community level, we need to understand that aspect of leadership. What questions do these scriptures ask of us? What questions do they ask of us? One, two questions. When you make an analysis in your companies, in your workplaces, we make an evaluation of whether this produces that results. In this worldly parlance, I can say ROI, return of investment, if I can use the word here. Whether I'm able to understand, evaluate the worthiness of this pursuit is what we need to understand here. There's another verse from the Mundak Upanishad which talks about Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan Brahmano Nirvedamaya Nasti Akritaha Kritena. Let us experiment with the world. Let us experiment with the world. Let's find out what the world has to offer. Going through the various processes. After going through those various processes, let us develop viveka, that discriminative faculty, that vairagya, that objective value-oriented approach where we call as renunciation, to evaluate the world. To evaluate the world. Then we come to an understanding, a conclusion happens that an indefinite, an unconditional, infinite result cannot be attained by employing a process. This is what our scriptures are trying to point us. So, I've made my frameworks clear. So, to get that knowledge, what should I do? What should I do? That is important, right? So, theoretically, we have understood certain things. So, if I need to get that knowledge, what should I do? We'll find out. Panihi Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. The Chandogya points us. It says, if you want the knowledge of that highest supreme Brahman, if you want that knowledge of the supreme wisdom, we're talking about, let him approach a guru. One who is wise, learned, disciplined, knows the nature of that ultimate reality. Let him approach that. Let him approach him with humility. Samit Panihi, with fuel in his hand. We're talking about that traditions in our ancient times. So this spiritual leadership orients us to look inward. And scriptures, the things which I just pointed out, assures us that our true nature is attained this way. Tarati shokam atmavit. One who knows his true nature goes beyond all sorrow. That is what we want. That is what we want. Be it disciplines like bhakti yoga, bhajans, yogic practices, trekking all across the world, experiencing nature. We want that peace. That inward journey gives us that tarati shokam atmavit. This freedom, coming out of the fourth principle which I place before you, fourth principle, that freedom from sense of all unfulfillment and limitations is the fourth goal. What is that fourth goal? Moksha. This is understand, is right understanding. Vidyaya vindate amritam. One's life, our life's fulfillment is attained by knowledge. Vidyaya vindate amritam. When this knowledge is attained, we no longer seek security, happiness, peace outside. It will become a part of our nature. The point here is our attitude which changes towards life, our attitude which changes towards life. So if that inward journey is there, shouldn't we work? Should I live all my work? No. Our perspective to life changes. That is the key here. Coming on to the last segment here. Equations in our work and life. A follow-up on all the previously mentioned thought processes. Some people may say that, oh, if I need to go inward, should I leave all my work? Some people may go to the extreme that I do not want to do any work. That is not the route. We need to do our work. That station of life which you have come, let us do that. Along with that, let us develop that sense of perspective, that sense of vision, which will enable us, empower us to reach our goal. This work-life equilibrium, work-life balance, which we hear in our management jargons here, it is not new to the Indian culture. Centuries ago, Maharishi Kannada, the founder of the Vaisheshika philosophy, said, he defined dharma as Yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhihi sa dharmaha. He said that. We're talking about abhyudaya, that external development of the world. Talking about nishreyasa, we're talking about that inner unfoldment of our being. That balance of that external and the internal is integral to develop a spiritual leadership. That is the idea which I'm placing before you today. When the aspects of dharma are rightly understood and lived, we welcome the best of what the world can offer us. First aspect which we need to know is that integrating that work and that inward journey of discovering ourselves. 1. 2. Swami Vivekananda's message of channelizing our energies. Swamiji says, I'll read from his works. He says, self-restraint, where it was loosely defined as brahmacharya. Self-restraint is a manifestation of greater powers than all outgoing functions. Let us imagine a carriage of horses running downhill, running amok, without any restraint. Is it more powerful, or a person holding the horses when it is running amok? Is that more powerful? Which requires more energy? Yes. One who is able to control, restrain those energies is important. So here, struggle is important, a part of our life. Let us not fear struggle. Taking struggle in the right stride, physical, mental, emotional, is a sine qua non of spiritual life. of any life, to know our real nature. And spiritual leadership in this mystic struggle for realization of the ideal is the most primary task every aspirant needs to do. And we need to focus all our attentions of our mind, our awareness to realize this. Yes, all these approaches are insightful. To sustain and nurture these concepts, we need to understand those concepts of Dharma. We're talking about the 5 segments, talking about goals, definitions, talking about leadership equations, leadership questions. We're talking about understanding life from the ancient text perspective and the work-life balance. So this summarizes what we can expect by being a spiritual leader. So with this, I would like to conclude this theme on spiritual leadership. Om Shanta Shanta Shanti Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Jai Ramakrishna. Namaskar.